Here I have the Pyxis, here I have the XLCS Designs cage, and we're going to put these two things together. This is the full metal jacket cage, and first of all I've got to do is slot the Pyxis into the cage, and it should just go straight in theory, and it does. Bang. So immediately that is it, and then I just need to go through and put some mounting screws in, but let's just take a little look at how that feels to start with. So obviously full metal jacket version here has everything at the front covered in metal, and then around this side tons more mounting points, and around the back at the moment is fully open. Top, loads of mounting points, bottom, loads of mounting points, and then just got to screw it all together. So let's get going. Now there is a very, very brief guide to how this all actually goes together just here, and you can, with the QR code just there, go onto the website and see how that all works. I'm going to chance it without. There are two screws in here that are shorter, which have to go into a certain place. So 3 longer ones on the bottom, 2 shorter ones on the top, I think is what we're saying. So the 2 shorter ones onto the top, and those go into the center mounting points just there and just there. So that is just dead center in the Pyxis there. And then comes with all of the Allen keys and everything that you need, which, I mean, to some extent now it's expected, but it is always welcome when you don't have to go hunting around for a suitable tool to fit everything together. Okay. Personally, I try to leave everything just a tiny bit loose until all of the screws are in, because then you can cinch it down afterwards, but it can make it difficult to fit things if you do it in the wrong order. So these two go, 2 in the front just there, and then the third one just goes into the back mounting point just here. So in terms of where it's being held, I guess you have 5 points of mounting, but then the whole thing is within the cage, so it's not like anything is going to particularly shift around for it. It's a snug fit and doesn't feel like it was rattling around at all when I was handling it, so that seems to be just belt and braces and making sure that your camera is really secure. So I'm going to go around and just cinch these down a little bit, and then go around afterwards and do the final cinch once we've got everything locked. Now, if you wanted to, at this point, you could totally stop, and that is done, that is it. That is in the cage. It doesn't add a vast amount of weight to the camera, but it's certainly upped the heft somewhat, and that is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because obviously the camera's now protected, you've got all those mounting points, and weight can actually be a benefit for certain shots, depending on how you shoot. Now, if you're just going for the lightest rig possible, this is not going to be the way to achieve it, but hopefully you know that already. Now, there are a couple of other things that I want to have a very quick look at, mostly to do with, bit of noise there, mostly to do with the 50mm rods. Now, within the Pyxis ecosystem, if you like, you've got that Blackmagic EVF, and that Blackmagic EVF has to slot onto some 15mm rods. Now, I came up with various hacked ways of doing that when I didn't have the top handle, but now I've got these, I'm thinking that I can just use a couple of the short rods just here, mount them into the top of the Pyxis just here, and then, yeah, all I did there, show you again, was take the screw and just drop it into that tube, and then it just pokes out the bottom, and at the bottom again you have that little indexing nub thing, which is going to allow you to take your tool, position it in, and then just get everything lined up. Turn it on its side so you can see a little bit more what I'm doing. Ooh, I'm actually resting on the SDI ports there, don't want to do that. Okay, so that one is done. It's going to be a tiny bit difficult to see this, but hopefully, if I hide behind the camera, just in here, that is what is allowing us to keep that rail locked in position. So these rails will not spin once they are cinched into that little lock just there. And you can tighten them down, but you don't need to rely on that to keep them in position because they have that little indexing slot. It's kind of like half an Arri locking pin, if you like. And with that all in place, with any luck, we have 50mm rods on the top of the Pyxis just here. So now that means I can take my follow focus, which is behind me at the moment on this long rod that I've got, and I don't need that long rod anymore. Put that to the side. I could just take that and place that onto either side. Now I quite like having, personally, the follow focus on the top because it means that it's not going to poke out at the bottom and make the whole rig lopsided, so you can't place it down on a flat surface. So if I can, I like to have that up there. And also it means that if I do have anything on the bottom to hold on to, it keeps it clear of the motor just there. But that's a personal thing, that's how I like to hold the camera. Now I should be able to get my EVF and the whole mount array just here, take it off the Blackmagic mount, because we won't need that because we don't have to go onto the top handle. And I should be able to, if I take that all off for a moment just to make it neater, and get rid of this cable because we've got that lovely red braided cable that we could use if we wanted to. And just slot that onto the front just here. Yep, all standard fittings, all standard sizes, just goes right on, no issues whatsoever. And then I can take the EVF and I can feed it in. And there we go. EVF on the front, very minimal feeling, very stripped down, very neat, very low as well. What I have been feeling is that the more things I added to the Pyxis, the bigger it got, like vertically, you know, it started to expand out. But this is bringing it back down a little bit and keeping it kind of within the footprint of the camera. Now it's still going to obviously stick out a little bit and all of that, and that's fine. But it's more like the mounting points and the mass of everything is just kept a little bit more central, which helps to make it feel more balanced, I think. Now, I've got to take this out and use it, but certainly when I'm building my rigs, that's something that I look at. It's like, how low can I keep everything? How much can I bring it in so that it's not just stacking up and up and up? And that was a challenge that I actually had with the field world monitor that I've added on. Mostly because when I had it added with this top handle, it kind of raised everything up quite considerably. Now that isn't the fault of the monitor, but it just means that when I'm rigging it out with this on top, it just made it heavier on top, and then you've got the MPF batteries on the back if you're using MPF batteries, which is more mass. So by adding that mass to the top of the camera, it just makes everything a little bit more ungainly, I think is maybe the word that I'm looking for just here. So we've got those 50mm rods just there. I've got my EVF mounted. I'm feeling pretty good about this. I can take this cable and we could just feed that through and place it into the front just here. I think it is worth saying that the way this has been designed should mean that in theory all of your normal ports are actually still perfectly accessible. So you don't have to worry about losing access to your ports. And indeed, just putting that in there, it fitted just fine. We still have access to the little locking screws as well. So you can make sure that you're not putting any strain on your ports or on the connections on the cable. And just feed that in nicely just there. Yeah, I obviously haven't done up all of the locking pins, but you get the vibe of it. Just move that out a little bit. Nice. Okay, I'm feeling good about that. Now, I mentioned this before, but we can slot this into the side and have that as just a little sunshade just there. So that could sit in there. I personally probably won't be doing that an awful lot, but it is in there and that's all great. You do have the option, incidentally, of slightly longer 50mm rods as well. So if you wanted on the front just there, you could actually take it out quite a lot further than I have chosen to. And it might be that when, for example, I place a PL lens on there, the focus gear and everything might sit a bit further forwards. Maybe not with the Blazar Remus, but perhaps with the Viltrox lenses that I'm testing out just there. All of the gears on those are quite a lot further forwards, so I might need the longer rods to be able to put the follow focus motor far enough forwards, but you can get them, they're included. Now, you could also take those 15mm rods and put them onto the back of the camera as well. And there's a couple of mounting points at the bottom just there, and that would mean that if you had, say, a transmitter like the Axoon just here, so we could take that Axoon transmitter, I could take these little 15mm rods at the back and connect them in. In fact, let's just go through and do that. Yeah, this is all so intuitive, and it is like lovely adult Meccano, you know, kind of therapeutic. Don't know if anyone else has noticed this, maybe it's just me, but Lego seem to be really targeting adults with their advertising recently, and going for the whole mindfulness and relaxation and cathartic nature of Lego, you know, putting things together in a very orderly fashion. Maybe it's just me that they're targeting, I don't know. Okay, so now I've got 15mm rods on the back as well. That hasn't really compromised our ability to put the camera down flat either. It is kicked up slightly, but in an even fashion, so that's not going to be too bad. Let me place that lens over to the side for a moment. So I can then just take this and slot it on, and hopefully that will just, yeah, go straight onto there. So now I've got the ability to put my, in this case, transmission on the back, but that could be your battery plate as well. So depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it, it's going to give you lots and lots of options for how you actually build out your camera without adding a vast amount of bulk to it. And that's feeling super slick and super just pared down, which minimalism is the way. Anything where we're building out and we're getting further away from the camera, apart from for things like handles, I just don't like. Now, on the subject of handles, I can obviously stick this in basically the same place that I had it before. There is on this side a rosette mount as well, so depending on what handles you have access to, what you want to use, you're going to be able to make use of that rosette. So that just goes straight on the side, got my handle, super quick, super easy, and I could now put a NATO rail on top of this if I wanted to put my other little handle, which has the monitor on currently, on. And we still do have access to most of the mounting point areas that we had before, so I'm not feeling like I'm losing out too much just here. Could try that at the front just there perhaps, or actually maybe I will have it at the back actually, because that monitor makes things very front heavy. Okay, NATO rail is now mounted on top. That's a very tiny NATO rail that I've got just there, you know, just came with the handle. Let's just slot that into place. Keep that cable out of the way for now. Yeah, okay. So I've got monitor on, I've got EVF on, and it is feeling actually way more open and clear than it did before with both of these things on. Before, when I had the Blackmagic handle on, and I'm not finding issues for the sake of it here, I'm just kind of going through the process that I'd already been through with the Blackmagic handle, which is why I ended up with the small rig handle for the monitor, which was I couldn't mount the cold shoe mount on top of the Blackmagic handle and get this monitor in a decent place that would also allow me to use an easy rig. So I went back to this small rig handle, which has little cold shoe mounts all over it. And then once I got that on, obviously in order to mount the Blackmagic EVF mount, which kind of required the Blackmagic handle potentially, and also required this bit which slots into the Blackmagic handle, which is, you know, it's fine. If I'm just using the EVF, it's a really solid, nice mount, and the whole thing just easily lifts out. It's nice and it works, but for this, if I was having the EVF and I wanted to have the monitor on, which perhaps is not the usual setup that I would do, but I was restricted from doing that. Now having this lower down, mounted those 15mm rods, keeps the top of the camera nice and clear, means that I can have this handle on as well. I've got everything on there, haven't got a lens on yet, but it is feeling quite at one, quite balanced. So final thing I'm going to do right now, and then I will have a play with this in some other configurations off camera because I'm getting carried away. I'm going to take that lovely red port cap off, going to mount up the Poco onto here. Decent rig just here. We've got the field world monitor on top, the S7. Got my EVF. We've got a Blazar Remus anamorphic on the front with the Mophage Poco adapter. I've got my small rig handle on the side just there, which has the controller for my follow focus as well. I've got that Axoon Cineview Master 4K on the back. I need a couple more cables to make this actually functional. I need to put a battery on the camera, but damn, that is feeling, yeah, I like it. Now I've got a couple of extra little bits coming for this rig. I've got some Mondo adapters just to keep all the cables nice and neat, and I've got plenty of mounting points now to put those on, which is going to be cool. And then I think I will also experiment with having a V-mount on the back of this as well, and that is where perhaps this plate, big plate at the back, will come in handy because it gives you a few more mounting points and the option of doing something different around the ports at the back just here. But that is all to play with. So this has been just a really quick overview, bit of a mess around, bit of a play around with that XLCS Designs Pyxis cage. If you've got any questions about this, you know, drop it down below because cages they're expensive, they are hard to get a sense of until you actually get your hands on them. So by all means, drop any questions that you've got down below, and I'm going to be testing this out in a load of shoots, so if I can answer it, if I can experiment with it, I will. Thank you very much for watching.